All right, guys, day 3 of the quarantine tips and tricks. I think the question I get asked the most and what I've gotten in most in response was basically about color correction and just how to kind of create different color palettes and different looks for photos. I definitely think that is what took me the longest to learn and kind of figure out, my style. Before we get started, tutorial wise, I would suggest before going into every shoot, have an idea of what you want it to look like at the end. That'll help a lot with picking locations, picking your model, styling, especially with color theory. Styling becomes really important. So let's just jump right in. This is a picture of May. I shot with her when I was in New York. I already did all the retouch and everything on this photo, so I'm just going to use this one to kind of go over the color correction. I'm not going to go super in depth about how I color correct. Because it usually does take me quite a while, and I actually already made a whole color profile for this series already. But I'm going to show you guys the quickest way to get started in Photoshop. It's actually just a click of a couple of buttons, and it's super, super easy. So the first thing we're going to do, obviously pick your photo, do all of the retouching, do everything you plan on changing first before you change the colors. So we have a picture of May. You're going to go down here, and we have all of our options here. You're just going to create a adjustment layer. We don't want to go into the actual photo and change the actual photo because it's going to make it a lot harder. So go into adjustment layers and go into gradient map. So I know that looks a little bit strange right now. So it does obviously affect our photo. Go up here and actually click that gradient, and it's going to open up this menu for you. So I leave everything the same. This to me doesn't matter, but if you go to gradient type, it's at solid. So if you go to noise, it's going to create something that looks even worse than it did before, but it's going to get better very fast, I promise. Uncheck restrict colors. I'm going to press OK for now. Obviously it's not done, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring the opacity down really, really low. So like 3 or 4%. You can already see a big difference there in the colors. I'm going to go to my history palette, and down here is a snapshot button. I have found recently that I didn't utilize this as much as I should. When I get to certain like check marks in my process, if I take a screenshot or a snapshot, I can go back to that point. So let's say like I'm retouching or whatever, I go way too far, and then I realize, wow, I wish I could go back 40 steps, but this only brings you back 30. Actually, I don't know the number, but for example, you can go to those snapshots and go right back to where you were. So today we're just going to use it to determine different possibilities for a color palette for this photo. So we're going to go back into our little gradient map here. So we'll click right there. And this button is going to be your best friend. It's going to create basically different color profiles for you, or different palettes, and it's going to actually apply them to the image. So I can just keep pressing random, like, okay, so I like this one maybe as an option. So I'll press OK, add a snapshot. It's going to add a snapshot to the top here. So this is what it was when you opened it. This is it now. We're going to keep going through, randomize. This one's kind of cool. And then you can just basically keep going through and picking ones that you like. I like that one a lot. So I'll go through a few more. So now we have all of our snapshot options, and we can kind of cycle through all of these different color palettes and see which ones we like. For example, I really like this one, and I don't really love that one anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. Yes. And you can go through and you can randomize as many times as you want until you find something you like. So let's just say these ones are both a little too red, and I don't feel like dealing with that. So let's just go with this one for now. I think that the yellows are a little bit too green yellow. So like her skin tone's looking a little bit more yellow than like a peach. So you can fix that by making another adjustment layer and going into selective colors. So this is kind of where I get way more specific. In here you can kind of see how specific I get with my colors. That's basically how I build a color palette. But we'll just do something pretty quick for this. We're going to go in here. This one's already set to yellows, but you can pick whatever color you want to impact, and it's only going to target the color you're on. So if I'm going to stay in the yellows, and I don't want as much yellow as there is right now, I can lower the yellows in there. You can kind of see what it's doing. That's with it lowered. This is with the yellow super high. I'm gonna go ahead and lower them maybe to like 28, and that definitely keeps her skin a little bit more peachy rather than that yellow color. So the reds and yellows are gonna be probably the most of what is gonna play into your skin tones and everything. We can bring some of the magenta out to make it a little less pink if we wanted. I actually want to add a little bit more. The cyan's going to take away the blue, so it's going to make it a little bit redder. So I'm going to keep that there. And then if you go down to black, this is actually just basically like your luminance slider in Lightroom on your HSL palette. I don't really use this that often, but it does make, you know, my magentas brighter, or my red's brighter if I go back. It does make them darker if I go forward. So really quick, that was super easy. Let's just make a new group so you guys can kind of see what this looks like before and after. So we didn't do a ton, but this is the before and this is the after of the color correction, and it is super fast. So go ahead, try it out. I think it's a helpful way to get started with colors in Photoshop. I have a really exciting idea for tomorrow's video, but it's going to take a lot more work. So that's why this one's so fast. Like and subscribe. Please let me know if there's anything you guys want to know or see. I definitely will do a more in-depth tutorial about my color correction probably later, but I just want to get moving on the shoot for tomorrow's video. So have a good one.